So we've reached the end of Series 1 of Mystery Arcade.
So sad.
How did you find it?
Fun. Educational.
Yeah? So we've gone from...
Mind-numbingly difficult sometimes.
We've gone from the year 1980 to 1989. We've played quite a few games and we've seen quite a bit of technological advancement.
Very rapid advancement.
So let's have a look at what we played.
Previously on Mystery Arcade. Pac-Man!
Yes.
Classic.
We began with Pac-Man, which, as you rightly say, is a classic. So, Pac-Man, it almost feels like it's its own entity, in a way, because it's such a...
unique thing.
Yeah, and it still stands up today as it did back then.
Yeah, it hasn't
It hasn't really aged, yeah. It's got very basic graphics, of course, but it doesn't really matter because it looks... today it just looks minimalist, you could say. So, whatever.
And it's challenging, but still fairly simple at the same time.
Yes. If you know what you're doing, that is.
Which I clearly do, because I'm doing very well
Yeah.
at the minute.
We've obviously skipped the part where you...
Die, ghosts, die!
where you get stuck in the corner. Although you go stuck on a corridor, which is even worse.
It's painful to watch.
Yes. So we played a few versions of that because Mystery Arcade is all about the versions. And we started off with the Atari 2600. That's Space Invaders. We started off with the Atari 2600 version.
Which sucked.
Yeah, it was a difficult recommend because the hardware just wasn't there, and even with a game so basic as Pac-Man.
Where is Pac-Man?
Pac-Man's not there because it's the demo.
I was going to say,
There's Pac-Man.
Yeah, and there's the multiplying ghosts.
Yes, the flickering ghosts, which were a problem on the original hardware because I looked it up. And yeah, the problem with this I found is that whereas the original has a flowing design of a maze, this one is just a load of walls. So you can see the difference there.
Yes.
And you can kind of navigate that one a lot easier, whereas this one you just end up... Well, you can just run down that whole side of the maze.
But good attempt.
It was a fair attempt, but I think they could have done better given the quality of some of the other Atari 2600 games, i.e. Space Invaders.
Well, yes.
If they can do that, then they can do Pac-Man. That's what I'm saying. So next version, we played the Atari 8-bit version, which was Atari's home computer line. It was a lot more powerful than the 2600, as we can plainly see.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. The ghosts had zero AI, so they just sort of milled about and didn't really pose much of a threat.
Yeah.
And they were very cute. Pac-Man was a bit manic.
Too much pack coffee.
Yeah, but otherwise this is a solid attempt. Good colours. Quite happy with that.
Yep.
And finally, I believe this was the final version, we played... Oh yes!
Oh yes.
PC Man.
The fastest game in the West.
And there it is. On IBM compatible.
This was when I did not understand sideways screens.
Yes.
Which I still struggle with a little bit.
It's a puzzle.
Why did we not do joystick play? That sounds fun.
Because, as I explain nearly every time we play a DOS game, the joystick doesn't work properly in DOSBox.
Alright, okay. Well, DOSBox needs to sort itself out, doesn't it?
I think it has, I just don't have the most recent version. Anyway, the overlay there demonstrated the fact that the maze is identical.
Yeah.
The graphics are almost identical. The only problem...
It's green.
It's green because they had limited colours to work with.
Don't make excuses.
I'm making excuses. How are they going to do blue when they don't have access to blue?
They just take out the yellow.
Okay, good. So, well, yeah. That's a discussion for another day.
Do you know what I like about Pac-Man?
Hang on. I was just going to say, this would be a lot better if the ghosts weren't so fast. But because they are so fast, it makes it basically impossible.
And they catch you before they even got to you.
Yeah. I believe I had that problem when I was trying to get a power pellet. Go on, what do you like about Pac-Man?
It's simple, but there's still various strategies you can use.
Yes, and the AI of the ghosts, while not apparent.
Look how fast he is.
When you know it's there, you can kind of see it in action.
Mm-hmm.
But you can learn more about that in the actual episode, I'm sure. So that was Pac-Man, and that was our first episode. Next we played Frogger.
Cool.
You liked Frogger? You've always liked Frogger?
Always liked Frogger.
I remember we used to play Flash versions of Frogger on the web when we were little. So it was nice to go back to the original. And the original is really the best version there is.
It's very colourful.
Yep.
And surprisingly difficult.
So we've had more colours on screen than Pac-Man, and that was only a year afterwards. We also had more advanced music.
Yep.
Or just music in general. More sound effects.
More stuff going on.
More stuff going on. No AI, because there isn't really a place for AI in this game. But it's a classic formula and one that's been aped.
You mean frogged?
Very good. So, what do you think?
What do you mean?
What do you think?
I've always found this game very riveting.
Oh no. Let's move on from that fairly swiftly. The Atari 2600 version didn't really... It did an okay job, but again, it could have been far, far better.
Yeah.
We came to the conclusion that it had been rushed. I'm not sure if that's true, but...
You wouldn't play it, would you?
No. Well, we did, though.
We did, because we had to.
We did, because we have nothing better to do. And then we moved on to the 8-bit version, once again.
Which was hard.
It was hard because it was super, super fast, and we didn't know how to slow it down. We didn't know if there was a way to slow it down.
That poor snake dropped on that log.
Yeah, he's not in a good way, is he? The frog looks kind of fat.
Yeah, and it moves freakily.
Yeah. It's not as smooth, is it?
No.
And you can see that even at this point, the home computers weren't powerful enough to display these sort of colours that were in the arcade version. As we discovered when we looked at... Oh yes. This... I mean, an attempt was made, but...
A shoddy attempt.
The frog is bright red.
Yes.
And it turns into a bizarre freak. It looks like Munch's scream when it dies.
Yes.
And comparing it to the original, it's just like, why?
This was like playing the game while in a big vat of treacle.
Yes.
It was hard work.
Yes. It was like second-hand playing the game.
Yeah.
And because the controls were so bizarre on the keyboard, we had to double team it, which made no sense because left was on right and right was on left. So that was a lot of fun. Anyway, after that, we moved on to a game that I have a lot of time for. Robotron 2084.
Which I didn't like.
You didn't like it.
I didn't like it.
But I enjoy this game. I feel like it's like with Pac-Man, you've got strategies to it, though it does ramp up the difficulty very quickly, very early on.
Yes.
But I like the premise, and I think the controls are good.
I just found it was more nice looking than anything else.
Well, we can see that the hardware has improved once again, massively. Because it's still smooth, but they've got tons of stuff on screen. There's lots of stuff going on. More advanced AI, well, to an extent. I mean, they're still just following you around, but they've got different patterns of attack. You know, these things just float around. So I like this game, but it is I do concede
Not one
that
to
it
play
is
if you've got epilepsy though.
no, and I do concede that it is far too difficult for its own good.
Yeah. However,
the other versions we played, not so difficult. Well, the difficulty was in wrestling with the controls more than anything.
Yes.
Because, you see, the arcade version had 2 joysticks. So, one for moving around, one for firing. No home system had that.
No.
Unless you happened to own 2 joysticks and the game was programmed to use 2 joysticks, which none of these were. So, effectively what we found with the Atari 8-bit version and with all the other versions we played was that you had to be walking towards all the enemies before you could actually hit them.
Yep. Which was horrendous and impossible.
Yeah, and because of the limited angles of attack you could do, you know, it just wasn't happening.
8.
Yeah.
And it was slow and difficult.
Yeah, not fun. It's stodgy. We didn't like it.
No.
But we liked it better than...
this!
Yes, the ZX Spectrum. This was the first showing of this particular system, and it wasn't a great start.
Just throw everything at the screen
Yeah,
and not give you anything to be able to do with it.
it was extremely fast, and it sounded awful. I thought
Yeah,
it was all blips, and when you died, it made the most disgustingly headachy noise you could ever make.
And again, you have to be walking towards folk in order to hit them.
The advantage is that it is auto firing, so that's somewhat at least.
Well, only in that he's continuously firing. So all you have to do is move. But
Yeah, but he slides around. It doesn't have any animation.
you've
Not
got
good.
No angle directions.
Poor. And the final Robotron we played.
The best.
In fact, I should scrub back to the intro here, because the intro really was the standout of this version of Robotron,
Yes, the Cybermen.
because it was Cybermen for some reason, and it was Doctor Who. I'm puzzled by this. I believe I may have downloaded a dodgy pirated copy as opposed to the actual version, but I mean the game was the same.
Have you looked it up since?
Yes,
And
I believe that it was actually supposed to be Robotron. Just when it was pirated, they for some reason changed it to Doctor Who, which is why it said Illinois
Yeah.
Pirates League at the start.
yeah.
But that was a happy accident.
Fun.
So otherwise, this version had the full keyboard, so you could actually fire and move in different directions.
Yeah.
So it was better than the others,
But
but
it was still crap
it was still crap.
because it was Robotron.
Shut up. Robotron's a good game. Anyway, then we had a bit of a graphical upgrade in the
Yes!
form of,
The beautiful Dragon's Lair.
yes, animated by Don Bluth himself and all his lackeys. This wasn't really much of a game, to be honest, but it was a lot of fun to look at,
Yeah.
and I think that was the main draw of it.
It was like a play-along adventure, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, and I, again, have a lot of time for it. But we're
Difficult,
both...
Yeah, but difficult to play. Very difficult to play.
Yeah,
Unless
you had to
you're-
time it perfectly.
Yeah.
And I just want to correct a mistake that I made in this original
Oh,
video.
here we go.
Because the original arcade cabinet, I thought it did have the same prompt as the PC version does that we played, but it doesn't. You
Yeah.
have to just go on
What you think you should
what you
do.
think you should do, yes, and how you think you should time it. And the timing in the original was very tight.
Yes.
So basically, you had to keep playing it until you worked out exactly what to do, and then you could just play it all from memory.
But no one cares about that because it's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous, and that was the main thing about it.
Ugh.
And the problem was, this was done on a Laserdisc, which is why it looks so good for its time. And once again, nothing else could quite compare.
This was so hard.
This was too hard for its own good.
We didn't even get past this, did we?
No, we didn't get past the first screen because it was just ruthlessly difficult and it was far too random. So, instead of having this beautiful animation to look at, you have this ridiculous potato man running around.
It would be so interesting to see the sales figures for these versions.
To be honest, they were probably quite high.
Yes, but it'd just be interesting to see them and see how many they did actually sell.
Yeah,
Even though they're shockingly terrible.
I mean,
I
It's
know
ju-
they're doing the best, but
yeah, but
It's
I
ridiculous.
still think they could have done better.
they could have done a lot better.
They could have done an actual game as opposed to trying to make it exactly like the arcade version, down to the you have to remember what, but you can't even remember what to do because it's always random.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, we had the NES version, which did actually try and make a solid attempt at being its own game.
It wasn't too bad. It was just, again, difficult.
Ruthlessly difficult, but it had fantastic graphics for the time.
It just did things that you couldn't combat.
Yeah. Well, I think with this one, it did go back to the once you know what you're doing, you can just blaze through it.
Yeah, but it was that. It took you ages to figure out what you were doing. Absolutely,
Precisely, yeah.
ages.
Yeah.
And we still didn't get there, did we?
And it was very slow. It wasn't, in the arcade version, the knight is very agile, whereas in this he's kind of blundering along. Yeah, not good, but looks good.
Yeah.
And I think we had one final version that we again couldn't get anywhere past the first screen because Well, this was the DOS version.
Yeah.
And
this was, I think, the first impressive DOS game we came across.
It was, because it was very... It looked like it would have been very close to the arcade game had we been able to get anywhere in it.
Yeah.
But it seemed like the timing was so precise that you just had no chance, basically.
I think that was more down to user error rather than...
Ooh. Shut your mouth, Sunshine. Because I was the only one who was playing this, if I recall. So
yeah, I couldn't do it.
No, I couldn't do it.
So, Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's Lair, awesome. Next.
Well, one of them was awesome. Yes!
The first fighting game. The first of many.
The first ever fighting game. Look at it go.
The first one-on-one fighting game. Not the first ever, I don't think, but first one-on-one.
Danny Trejo.
Or rather, the first major one-on-one. It's hard to say which is the first of anything in gaming, but at least we can definitively say it was the first major one-on-one fighting game.
So this is Karate Stamp.
Karate Stamp, that's the one. Yeah.
Karate Champ. Starring Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, John Travolta, and Danny Trejo.
Trejo.
So this was a fun game. We had, despite its shortcomings, we had a ton of fun with this.
Well, it's simple. It's not, it was easy to play.
Yes. Well, you basically had one move.
Nice and slow, so you could do things with it. It was good.
It was very difficult to hit the enemy. But then we played the 2-player version, which was even more fun.
Difficult for suckers like you. It's the giant. I still don't get this cactus. Killer cactus. Tiny ladies.
Definitely a mug tree. The tiny ladies.
Oh, sorry.
The tiny ladies. The proportions are just bizarre, but still a ton of fun to play.
Yeah.
I think partly because with other fighting games, like we discovered later,
you're just there pressing buttons, aren't you?
Yeah, whereas this, you have one button to press. It's very methodical. You have to sort of time it.
And it's not like you're trying to wear down your enemy. You just have to get them once.
Yeah.
That's it.
So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. But we didn't enjoy the NES version so much. It was ugly. It was bad to control.
It didn't move.
Yeah, you couldn't... It seemed like hits were completely random.
And none of it made any sense.
And Danny Trejo looks very unhappy in this version.
He never looks happy.
And of course, it had the classic disgusting backgrounds.
Yes.
That made no sense.
Yes.
So that was Karate Champ. We didn't play much of that, but what we did play was
Gold.
Yes. Gauntlet.
Hooray!
I think we can skim past this one because it was a bit boring.
Yeah.
This is a game that it starts out well, and I think you quite enjoyed this when we first started playing it.
Yeah, I got into it a little bit. It was interesting, and then it kind of got the sameness.
Well, we did make the mistake of going to a really far-on level to start with. But yeah, it's
relentless. Look at him.
There's not a whole lot to it once you get down to the nitty-gritty. And
it's just getting through the onslaught, isn't it?
Yeah, and you see, unlike with Robotron, with that you could aim and fire in different directions. In this you can't, so you've got the same problem. Have to be walking into stuff in order to be hitting them.
I know, this was bizarre.
Yeah, there was just too much going on, I think. And, so it starts off fun, but it just doesn't. I mean, even with the two of us, we couldn't keep it going, could we?
No.
But we did persevere, and we played a few different versions. NES version looked like
this.
It looked like a graph. Not much fun. But it was pretty arcade accurate, so we'll let it off. You had to play as Dr. Zaius as well.
We won't let it off. You might let it off.
The Spectrum version we couldn't get going at all because we're too stupid. So it probably would have been bad. So we swiftly moved on to the Mega Drive version, which was our favourite version.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It had really good music, I thought.
Nice music, looked nice.
Yeah.
Played well. Not as relentlessly difficult.
No. But it was
Still
the same game, effectively, so whatever, man.
Yep.
Still Gauntlet. Still boring. We also tried to play the DOS version, and I managed to get it running after the fact, and it was just bunk.
Yep, look at that.
Yeah, not good. Even worse than the NES version.
Yep.
So that was Gauntlet. Boring as hell.
Gauntlet! Classic.
Outrun! Now, this is a proper video game.
Meow.
We loved Outrun.
Yes.
We still love Outrun.
Even though I still don't know what it's called.
I should have asked you to name it, shouldn't This is another one that doesn't really age because it's so fast and the graphics are just so
Smooth.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That you can just play it and not really worry about when it's from. It is timeless. The music's great. It looks cool. It just is fun to play.
Yeah.
It's obviously very fun to make, and we had a lot of fun with it. We didn't have a lot of fun with the Spectrum version though, with
No,
its fake
definitely
screenshots.
not. Definitely not. Look at that.
Did I show you the fake screenshot?
Yeah,
That
you
is the
did.
fake screenshot.
Yep.
With the massive graphics, it looks almost like the arcade version, and then you actually buy the game, take it home, and it's this.
Yes.
Yeah.
This depressing nonsense.
This was like driving a car with 4 flat tyres.
And no wheels.
And no road.
And no car. That sucks. Let's not look at that anymore.
Next we played the DOS version, which was
Wasn't-
great.
Yeah, it was alright. It was good, wasn't it? It was colourful and
Yeah.
different, and
It-
DOS was finally showing itself to be.
Showing its strength. It captured the feel of the arcade version very well. It had nice 3D roads.
Despite being not as fast,
No, but
which was okay.
it was fun. And then we had the Mega Drive version, which was very, very similar to the arcade version.
Yeah.
Just a bit slower. That's
Yeah.
all you can really say.
Not much slower. Look at it go. Meow.
Yeah, but it's not as smooth as it.
No, it's not smooth, but it was marginally easy to play, and the car didn't flip around all the time.
Yeah. So that was Outrun. Lots of fun.
And this is where 3D is starting to rear its ugly head.
Yeah, 3D begins with Outrun. But it didn't last long because then we had this the next fighting game, the next in a list of many.
And so far, the best. Apart
Well,
from Karate
considering
Chop.
we've only played 2. So you preferred this to Karate Champ? I thought it was the other way around.
Did I? I can't remember.
Oh, well, whatever. This was hard to play. It felt like you were on a grid.
Yes.
So you had to be in specific places in order to do specific moves. You couldn't do the special moves very well, and that the part of the point of this game was the special moves. And if you couldn't do them, then they didn't even tell you how to do them.
I don't think we did any, did we?
I think I managed to do one once, and then I didn't do it again because it just didn't work. Maybe it worked better if we used actual controllers. Who knows? At least we weren't slamming our hands on the arcade cabinet.
The
like
giant
we had to.
buttons.
Yeah.
Blah! That would have been fun. Like, if you get some giant buttons.
We played quite a few versions of this.
Yeah.
We started with the Commodore 64 version, which famously you forgot which version this was.
Yeah.
It's
It's rubbish, that's why.
rubbish, but we still had fun with it.
Forgettable.
Everything's brown.
Everything's brown and purple.
It's a brown game, not fun, and everybody looks the same. But you know,
This is more like Karate Champ, isn't it?
yeah. I have to say though, if it's not the worst version of a game that we've seen,
No, it's not.
it's passable at least. The DOS version, on the other hand, DOS had a strong entry last time, but then just
Messed up.
messed up because you literally could not.
Do anything.
You couldn't. You were hitting this. You could hit this guy all day, and you would not take any health off him whatsoever because he'd just kill you with his headbutts.
Yeah.
Ryu is the most useless fighter ever.
Yes.
In this version. So, and if you tried to play 2-player, which this wouldn't have happened on original hardware. It just sped up ridiculous.
Yeah, 'cause this was the only way I could beat him. I don't even know what I did. I just kind of froze him. And then,
Well, this is the 2-player mode,
yeah.
but obviously we couldn't play it because it would have been too fast.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then we had the PC Engine version, which was basically the same as the arcade version.
Yeah,
so
it was good.
whatever, man.
It was funky.
You can only really tell the differences if you look
right.
at them side by side. Right. Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yeah, I love this.
Should have asked you to say the name again because you still get this wrong
Yeah.
every single time. What's it called? Ghosts and
I
Gremlins?
have no idea.
Ghouls versus Ghosts.
At least I'm getting ghosts and things in it.
So,
This was creepy because these little blue dudes kept sneaking out from behind bushes.
yeah, and this guy kept coming out the chest.
Yeah, and I kept turning into a goose or something.
Yeah, and Then you made the mistake of picking up a weapon that wasn't the lance.
Oh, the fire.
The axe.
Oh, well, there's fire later on, I think.
The fire just drops on the floor and does nothing, but the axe is... The axe,
Bird.
you throw it and you miss everything. So, this game is fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah, looks nice, plays
Yeah.
nice.
The controls are bizarre, though, because I don't know if you noticed, and it's something that I didn't mention while we're recording. Once you jumped, that was it. You had to go through with the jump. You couldn't change direction in midair like in most other platformers. This one, you jump, and that's your jump.
Yeah, like real life.
So you can make, until you sort of get used to it and get your head around it, you do make the mistake often of jumping into things. Comme ça.
I don't know why I was so bad at this.
Well, it was... I don't know. I don't know. It was hilarious to watch. But
The frisbee was... Now I'm old. The frisbee was a good weapon. I should have kept hold of it. Dude,
Yeah.
go for your little monkey armour. Quick, quick. Oh. Where did that guy go?
that was Ghouls and Ghosts. It very self-aware game.
Yeah.
Didn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
And was designed to be extremely difficult. But
That level looks hard with them gremlin things.
hang on, which level do you mean? Do you mean this level?
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, with the weird pink slimy night people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was Ghouls and Ghosts. Lots of fun. Next version. Where is the next version now? Damn it. Yes. So we thought we'd dip back into the old Spectrum because it was of the time, and you know
This
it was a surprisingly solid attempt.
It No, it
Could have
wasn't.
quite easily taken out that guy,
It was terrible.
that skeleton murderer.
It
as
was
it's
okay
called.
until you got in front of a wall or something.
Yes, but yeah, it had all the features of it. It played okay. You know, the only thing missing really was the graphics. The rest of it was there. So
Yeah,
pretty good, really. Better than the other Spectrum versions we've seen.
this is true.
Next, we played the Amiga, and that's where we get our title theme from. And actually, looking at it, it doesn't really seem that much different from the Spectrum version. It's just got better graphics.
Yeah.
So-
But I don't think it played quite as well.
Do you not think?
I can't remember.
Well, you rated it higher, so it must have done.
Okay, that's good.
It looked a bit better at least, but I don't know. I think the Amiga could have done better.
You always said that.
I always say that because it's true. But anyway, that was the Amiga version. Very
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
fun to play.
Cool.
Would have been happy with it when if I brought it home. And that was about it, wasn't it? And
No,
then
there was one more extra one which you showed us, which was like a...
this was a
remake.
later version. I wanted to show this because, well, first of all, you just ran straight into that wall and then didn't move, which was good. This is how long it took the consoles to get to the level of the arcades were in 88 or 87 or whenever it was. I think it was 88. And this was 1992, wasn't it? So it took them a few years to actually get to that stage.
We definitely need to hire a fact checker on this show.
Shut your mouth. Anyway, that was ancillary material, so whatever. And the final game we played in 1980s was s.t.u.n Runner! We liked this game an awful lot.
Yeah, it was fast and it was cool and I wasn't bad at it.
It was like a 3D outrun with guns
Yeah.
and sci-fi.
And a cool bike.
It didn't really make a whole lot of sense, you know.
Stay off inside walls.
It was just all about that racing quickly and
Yeah, it was a adrenaline thing, wasn't it?
yeah,
Meow.
and the 3D served it extremely well. You have these tubes and things, and you have these little 3D cars. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Loved it.
The arcade version was kind of ahead of its time because, as we saw in the home versions,
Nobody could match it.
no, but they made attempts.
They did make attempts, but
And-
doing 3D in
Well-
2D is always difficult.
It was better than Outrun was,
Yes.
and it was, you know,
Marginally.
they did the best they could, and it was actually okay. But unfortunately,
But again, not one for if you've got epilepsy.
no. And unfortunately, I didn't actually rate this game, so it only got half the score it perhaps should have done.
Well, that's
It's,
awful.
It's just the way it is. Sorry.
No, it does look like Outrun. It's crap.
Yeah, it was hard to play. Then we played the DOS version. Hooray! And
Which was not awful.
we couldn't tell if it was properly 3D or not.
It wasn't.
But the PC was capable of 3D. Whereas the 3D PC games.
This was a bit slower.
So yeah, the PC was capable of 3D to an
Ah,
extent.
yeah.
You had things like Flight Simulator and Vet and Car and Driver and stuff, and this was similar in look to those. Very basic polygons,
Oh,
no shading whatsoever.
harsh on the eyes.
We couldn't tell if the car was 3D or not. It was strange because it didn't seem to.
It looked like it was, but it behaved like it wasn't.
Yeah. Strange. And you ran out of time every single time, so you couldn't get very far in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could have called it out of time, but no.
Yeah. And that concludes the 1980s. So that came out in 1989, and that
was it.
that was it. So we've seen a ton of technological advancement. We've seen a ton of development in terms of both what people want to play, the culture. I mean, we can kind of see we've gone from games where you just drive by the coast and have a good time driving to games where you're actively driving around and shooting people and getting stunts and stuff. So we can see a change in sort of the mood, I suppose.
And we've seen a lot of naff versions of good games
Yes.
that people paid money for.
But we've also seen that the hardware is slowly but surely getting there.
I'll tell you what we have seen. We've seen people who make these home computers trying to contend with the complexities of these games
Hmm.
without changing the hardware,
Yeah.
trying to deal with what they've got instead of trying to invent new stuff, which is interesting.
Yeah, I do think that they perhaps could have done better if they'd not tried to make arcade games.
Yes.
If they'd just tried to make their own games that were maybe got the license from the arcade game and used that to make a new game entirely. So that sums it up. I think we can safely move on to Series 2 now with an open mind. And
Well, I don't know about that.
hopefully we'll see some better games.
I don't know about better games, but different games.
Yeah, certainly
More technologically advanced games.
Absolutely. So we'll see you then.
For Series 2!
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.